Hi, Run Your Story family. This is Allison Gilliard with Run Your Story, where every story needs to be heard. And this month, our run stories are being fueled by none other than the amazing, incredible, and very gracious Gilliard Tech Services. Guys, if you have just an idea or a concept and you have no idea how to get it transported onto a website, Ray Gilliard from Gilliard Tech Services is your dude. He builds clean, modern sites, and right now, since he's a teacher, he has a little bit of downtime, so definitely reach out to him. He's been very busy with his current websites. He will be happy to sit down with you and make your dream website or idea become a reality. So definitely check him out at GilliardTS.com. Again, that is GilliardTS.com. You can also go to the Run Your Story page, and there's more information about Gilliard TS. Thank you, Gray, for believing in Run Your Story, for what you do with this podcast. Guys, our website is always fresh, always up to date. And it's all because of Gray and his love for this community. And speaking of community, I want to go ahead and warn you guys that if you have unfortunately gone through a miscarriage or infertility, that this podcast may be a little hard to hear. I got to sit down with an incredible friend, Morgan Walker, and hear her story. I had no idea what her story was. I got to meet Morgan through a mutual friend, Sarah Rice, who's been on the podcast and has an incredible book, and she connected us. And not knowing anything about Morgan, I had no idea what her story was about. But it's a reminder that we sometimes in life, just like in running, we have some very hard and messy chapters. We have some chapters that leave us with scars, to be honest. But Morgan shares the power of community and how important community is. And community helps us continue on. Even though we still have those scars, and even though we're no longer that same person, Morgan talks a lot about our dear friend, Annie Persinger. Again, didn't know that was somebody we had in common. And I love Annie, I love Chops, I love the store Do Goods. You guys have heard us talk about numerous times. The importance of showing up and being there, not only just for running, but also for life. And I appreciate what Annie has done in Morgan's life. And now seeing Morgan doing that. This is a beautiful story, guys. It is a very hard story. So again, I want to be sensitive to those that are dealing with, have dealt with infertility or a miscarriage. And I just wanted to let you know up front that this may be a little hard to hear. But just like also how we have some hard days and some hard runs in running, there's always a finish line. And Morgan shares about all of that. So thank you, Morgan, for sharing your story. As we've talked about in her story, is that sometimes we, in society, just like in life, we want to, and just like in our running, we want to tie everything up in a pretty little bow and make it look pretty, but that's not the reality. And so Morgan gets real with us and shares the hard truths and the hard moments, but also that we get through those moments through community. And so whether you're going through a hard run, a hard day, or a hard chapter, community is there. So thank you, Morgan, for sharing your story, for sharing your heart, for being honest, even though it was really hard to share. I thank you for doing that. And I want to say thank you to Annie and Sarah for pouring into Morgan, but also for connecting us and believing that this story needed to be heard. So again, thank you to my friend Sarah Rice. Go read her book as well. Any person, your go shop at Do Goods Mercantile. All right, guys, lace up those running shoes, get ready, get set, and go run with my dear friend Morgan and her run story. Morgan, it's so nice to meet you.
It's so nice to meet you, Allison.
Excited. And I do have to give a special shout out to Sarah, my dear friend, who she messaged me and was like, hey, I met this girl, Morgan, and you should definitely have her on the podcast. And I was telling her all about the podcast.
Yep.
So shout out to my friend Sarah Rice for doing that.
No, she's wonderful. It's crazy. I met her in a different city, in a different state, and yet it all came back here to
That is
Mobile.
wild. I love that so much.
Yeah.
So I have no idea your story at all. So what is your run story, Morgan?
Yeah. So my run story really has different chapters. My first chapter started When I was a teenager, probably latter years of high school, I ran mostly for conditioning, for sports. So I played competitive sports through high school and into college, and I just always ran for those sports. And that was the end of running for me, is just conditioning for sports. And then I graduated college, and running became more of exercise and activity. Just something, it's a free sport. You get outside, you go run, and you get back home, and you can have the rest of your day. And so I enjoyed running for activity, really. And then I ran from out of college through my first pregnancy. So I did a 5K. I was like 35 weeks pregnant with my first child. So I just enjoyed it. I did it. It was easy. And then I quickly, well, no, of course, postpartum changes your life. And then I had a second baby really fast. My girls are 14 months apart. And so that was a surprise. But just naturally, my running slowed down.
Sure.
So my schedule had changed, the demands had changed, my body had changed. And so I just wasn't running as frequently. So I would walk more in those years. And then about 8 months after my second daughter was born, I, at that point, we weren't necessarily thinking and planning of having more children, but we always wanted more children. And so my husband and I have always had dreams of having a big family. And so we thought, we never really had like a number in mind of how many kids we wanted to have, but we always said we would just go one at a time and just fill our home with children, however the Lord provided. And that was kind of what began the next chapter. Was I had a medical issue that happened about 8 months postpartum with my first daughter, and exercise and running became something that I was really fearful to do. And so I really stopped doing a lot of things that I would normally have done. And so the term infertility, of course, it would have been secondary infertility at that point because I had already had 2 children, but the term infertility started slowly creeping into doctor's visits and appointments when we just weren't getting pregnant as easily and naturally as we were with our first 2. And so that word kind of just began to sting a little bit as I started to realize, okay, not just my body has changed in postpartum, but goodness, rational or irrational, it didn't matter at that point.
Sure.
Running became something that I just really feared doing. And exercise too, in general. So I would have little spurts of doing more exercise and running, and then other times where I would just stop completely and not do anything at all because I just didn't want to risk the chance of not being able to have more children. And so that became a pretty exhausting thing for me, was that tension of, should I go out for a run or should I not? Should I go exercise or should I not? So this was over the course of my youngest daughter is now about to be 8. So it was about 6 years long of this tension that I walked in. Wow. But in 2022, we did get pregnant with a third baby. And unfortunately, we lost that baby. And so that miscarriage also really changed the way that I feared kind of living in my body, just what could happen. Not only could I not get pregnant, when I did get pregnant, I then lost that baby. And so just what my body could do or couldn't, it didn't matter. It was irrational, definitely, but rational fear or not, it did not matter. So by nature, being active was something that I wanted to do, but the angst I had every time I did it was exhausting to me at the same time. So in 2022, I did get pregnant, but we later lost that third baby. And it was pretty devastating for me. We did have a wonderful church family at the time. We lived in Mississippi. And I had a great support system of friends and family that really probably literally carried me through that miscarriage. But to fast forward a bit, I was still not running. I was really only walking and maybe some light dumbbell workouts here and there, probably at most. But in the fall of 2022, we discovered that I had a fast-growing benign tumor on my uterus. And so the doctors recommended that I do an open abdominal myomectomy. We had gone through several doctors at this point to get to that recommendation. And so that surgery was going to be pretty extensive. And so I decided that was probably what I should do, especially since we did have hope. So maybe we could have more children at some point. So I had that surgery, and the recovery was actually really hopeful. It was a successful surgery. The tumor was very large. It had grown at that point to be about the size of a grapefruit.
Whoa.
Yeah. It was really big. And so when I was in a lot of pain, but again, I think I just was pushing through the pain because that's how much I just wanted to have more children.
I was about to ask you, I was like, surely with something growing in the body like that, were there any other symptoms?
Yeah, pain for sure. And just discomfort. And running definitely would have exacerbated that
Sure.
just because I would have felt it more.
Yeah.
I don't know that that was really a primary thought, but it definitely was experienced whenever I did try.
Yeah.
So, and I was just pushing it to the side and kind of tunnel vision and just kind of sticking to, I'm just not going to run anymore was the thought that I had during that time. But the surgery was successful. And I had hopes that maybe the pain would be gone and I would be able to have more kids. But the fear with running did not subside. So that really kept me from hitting the pavement again. So then fast forward, that was the fall of 2022. And then in May of 2023, we moved to Mobile. And it's funny, I was very quickly realized Mobile is a running city. I would ride down Old Chill Road and I would see all these runners up early in the morning, to the afternoon to the evening. There's just runners everywhere. And I would take note of that, but I just wasn't sure I was ready to get back into that community. Though I thought it was probably more of a running city than I had lived in at least a while.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of people outside running around. But but I was still not ready to run again. And so when we found out in early July that I actually did get pregnant again.
Ooh, okay.
And so that happened. And then unfortunately in August, a series of really unfortunate events happened. And it happened tragically and suddenly and quickly. But I ended up losing that fourth baby. And I also had a pretty near-death experience. So just everything changed in a matter of a day for me. And so I'm sure it's obvious, but running was probably the last thing on my mind at that point. My physical recovery, I just couldn't have run if I wanted to, but my physical recovery was going to be about 6 to 8 weeks. And so when I first went into surgery, they went in laparoscopically and were thinking that they could resolve the issue. I didn't know going into surgery that we had lost the baby, but they didn't know exactly why or what was happening. I was just very sick. And so they went in laparoscopically and realized that that wasn't going to cut it, that the internal trauma was a lot more significant. And so actually my uterus ruptured. And so I was hemorrhaging internally. And so they had to open me back up at the same cut as I had just 8 months earlier, which was really not ideal from a recovery standpoint. So waking up to this was pretty surreal. And at the end of that physical recovery came a pretty deep depression where I just did not want to do much, especially in my body. Getting outside and walking or running was just not something I really ever dreamed that I would do again. It's this weird tension of living in your body was maybe the tension that I was experiencing. So the events of that day definitely changed the hopes that we had for a growing family. And so the complexity of that recovery felt like a weight on my chest that was just slowly crushing me. But that was a surprising start to the next chapter of my story with running. So hard and tragic, but running was maybe the surprise gift that the Lord gave me and the healing that was to come. It wasn't immediate, but it did come. So my neighbor, Annie Persinger, I know Buddy too. She's one of my dearest friends here in Mobile. And she, just being someone who is very sensitive to people and their stories, she slowly started coming to my house and filling my fridge and asking if I needed a coffee or sitting with me and just talking. And that friendship developed because Annie's a runner. And I knew that because I'd see her. She was one of the ones I'd see running around Mobile. She's everywhere. And so when Annie asked me one day if I was ready to maybe go for a walk, I said yes, because honestly, I just wanted to spend time with Annie.
Sure.
Yeah, I wasn't really thinking.
That's fair. That's fair.
So I did. I got up and we started walking together. And at that point, the physical battle of that process, Annie started to help me untangle a little bit. She would ask me, probably because she just didn't know my story. She didn't know too much of my history. She knew a little bit, but she would talk to me about running. Did you ever run? I'd wear my T-shirts from races that are a 5K. I mean, they were years old, but she would ask, are you a runner? And I'm like, no, I'm not a runner. But through those conversations is where we started to untangle some of those things together, just in friendship and walking and sweating in this hot, humid air of Mobile. And like I said, it did not begin overnight, but when I would accept the invitation to go and walk with Annie, I started to wake up in the morning and just tell myself, maybe I could do a little bit more today. Maybe I could go for an extra mile with her. Maybe I could start running again. Kind of those thoughts started to seep back in to my mind. And so one day we did. We decided to go run a mile. And then that kind of lasted for a few weeks. And then it was, hey, do you want to go for 2 miles? And get it, Annie being the friend that she is, she could have run so much further.
Yeah.
She could have probably, even at that point, ran faster than me. And she didn't. She paced with me. And she stuck it with me. And when I would say, I can't go any farther, she's like, it's fine, let's walk. And then, are you ready to go again? And I'd say, I think so. And we'd start going again. And those miles just started to accumulate. And then from 1 to 2 to 3, and then we ran a 5K. And then somehow we were convinced to run a 10K in July of the next year, right? And so we definitely grew our friendship through running together. And then, very surprisingly, my husband started to run too. And there's no one in this world that surprises me more than him. He hated to run. And so he started waking up and just 1 mile at a time and 1 mile at a time. Just his own grief journey, and different than mine, but the same as mine. And running also became that for him. And so I think having a good friend and my husband also doing this again really encouraged me, because it became lighthearted and conversational of, how was that run today? It was terrible, or it was great, or I went this far, I had this pace. And that conversation was what kind of kept me going. So as I increased mileage, I also realized that I was escaping less my present reality. So much of what I was struggling with was I wanted to escape the realities of what my body couldn't do. I wanted to forget it. I wanted to ignore it. And every time I started to run, I would experience it, right? Because it would put me back into my physical body. And I would feel this weight of just sadness. But when I started to run, that helped me to stay more present. It almost helped me to face the very thing that I didn't want to face. So it helped me to stop escaping and just live more in my body. And as scary as it was, that's where healing began. So, of course, Annie couldn't always run with me. And so I would have to run by myself at times. And running by myself was when I would get to this part of a run where I felt so weak and so tired and so out of breath. And all of a sudden, these tears would begin to erupt from my heart, and words to the Lord, prayers that were unfiltered, because I didn't have the strength to pretend. I didn't have the strength to shape my prayers into some pretty format. It was just raw and unfiltered with the Lord. And that is where healing and then this last chapter of running really has been for me.
Maureen, I'm trying to hold it together over here. One, because of what you said, that running brought this unexpected gift. Not only through Annie and the average trip, and I can only imagine, because I love that family dearly.
Yes.
Like Annie Chops, Sarah Nell, that whole group of Jesus people that just, they really exude what faith is. And they live it. And just her coming over and just by simply just being there and then just saying. And I think that that's the thing too, is that's community. And just living life together. And that's, and hitting the pavement together. Whew. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's hard.
It was a hard road. It was a very unexpected hard road. And as much as I think there was this part of this tension that to begin to heal felt this tension of, I actually don't want to get so far away. Like, I still wanted that desire to have kids and I couldn't anymore. And so beginning to run and heal actually began to accept this new reality for my family that I didn't really want. But in that is where the Lord did this deepest work in my heart of trusting him with the future, trusting him with the unknown, trusting him with shattered dreams. And that ability to put that in his hands and not mine, because living in my own flesh was just fear, fear, fear. It was all it was. But when I began to trust him with the brokenness of that part of my story was where running became fun again. something I wanted to do.
Well, and it sounds like you got to truly lament, like truly, as you say, you didn't think about those pretty prayers and say, okay, we're going to put a bow on it and send it up. Like, it's one of the things that I've learned through running when there's been very hard chapters and you're just like, I don't know what else to do but go for a run and look like a crazy person because I'm talking to the Lord and I'm crying.
Yeah.
But I learned that you leave those tears just like you leave that mile there.
Yeah.
You can't go pick it back up.
That's right.
The tears, they gotta land on the road and they're gonna melt. Like, this not something.
They're gonna evaporate.
They're not there anymore. Well, you can't go back and pick up that mile. You can't go back and pick up those tears.
That's
like
right.
they're there.
Yeah, no, all the pretty runners I saw on Old Shell Road for those months of me thinking about it, I became like the ugly, the crier coming down Old Shell. I would laugh thinking, there's no telling who's in these cars or who
Not at all.
thinks this. But I didn't care.
Yeah.
I really didn't, because that is where I believe the Lord began to do his best work in me.
Oh. So there have been some lessons that we learned from running.
Yes.
So what are a couple of those?
Yeah, lessons in this last chapter of running for me have been really everything I just described. But the greatest lessons that I've learned is running with friends and a spouse gets you going. I mean, that's probably the first thing that I would point out. It's having Annie specifically and then Sunny run with me or just run in the same season of life as me that pushed me to keep going. And then the other one would be running helped me stay connected to the present reality. So I am a counselor by profession. So this is something that I do a lot of work with people in, but it was a work I had to do myself. And running helped me to do that. It was this integrated place that I had to stay in my body, in this moment, in this season of my life, and being pushed to the end of myself. And so that's probably the best lesson I've learned in running in this most recent of chapter is being learned through my weakness. That when I am weak, he is strong. And being pushed into that place of weakness physically helped me to do something unlike any other exercise or training that I've ever done. Running in a season of grief pushed me to who I was physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And it integrated me in this place of weakness and in the tears of healing that began in those hardest parts of my run, right, where my heart rate is at threshold and I really have zero filter. It's just coming out. And I think that's what the Lord actually wants from us.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I don't want the pretty prayer tied up with a bow. I want to meet you where you are. Christ left his seat to meet you where you are. He's not asking you to come to where he is, to leave your seat and to tie it up in a pretty bow. But let me come to you where you are in those ugly tears on Old Shell Road.
You're dressed like a rat.
That's right. That's right. Nothing's pretty about it. Yeah.
That's incredible. So let's shift a little bit here.
Sure.
And let's talk about, because you did talk about how you'd wear some 5K shirts here and you would ask some questions. So do you have a favorite race?
Yeah, so I will, this really says a little bit about me. I don't know that I have a favorite race, but a way that a race is defined as a good one for me is the after party of the race.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Yeah, is there some live music? Is there some good food and good drinks? And are the fellowship and are people hanging out afterwards? That to me, I'll walk away and be like, I'll do that race again.
Okay.
But if the race is, I don't know, boring and dull afterwards, I'm like, I don't know about that one. That's probably not going to be a race I would do again.
So do you have a favorite post
So recently,
party?
my husband and I did a half marathon in Perdido Key. And it was my first half. So I went, it was at the Perdido Key Resort, I believe it's called. And it was great. They had people on stilts and they had a mermaid and they had live music and trays of food. And it was so much. It was right on the beach. I mean, so you can't beat that. It was so fun.
You're like, where does the mermaid come in?
I know.
Did she grow legs and run?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I would say that was a very recent race, but it sticks out to me as a favorite because the after party was just so much fun.
Okay. One of the things that I like to learn about people is about routines because we either have them or we don't.
Yep.
And you being a counselor, I'm sure that there's some kind of interesting take on that as well.
Yeah.
So I want to know your answer to this.
Yeah.
Do you have a pre-race routine?
So I do. I am pretty big on routine. And I love the term routine, which is why I love you used it, more than schedule, right? I think a schedule can actually have a reverse effect on us if we become too rigid
Sure.
in a schedule.
Okay.
And because if something gets off in your schedule, it just throws you. But if you have a routine, something that you can build in and it's not super rigid, and if it gives and takes at times, you're not able to do all of the above that you want to do, then it doesn't completely throw you off.
I see.
So
Okay.
I like to have a routine of something that I do. But the biggest thing is I like to get up early. I like to have that just the solitude in the morning of quiet, kind of get my mind right, wake up a little bit, have a good cup of coffee. And I always drink a little bit of coffee before a race. Eat some light carbs and then I just hydrate as much as possible is probably the routine. But I get up at this time and 30 minutes later I do this and 20 minutes later I do this. It just doesn't work for me as well.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So you mentioned the after party being the big hit,
yeah.
but do you have something else that you like to do after the race?
No.
I got it. We want to see mermaid in stilts.
Exactly. When I'm done with the race, I'm done. I just want to have a good time.
So I'm here to hard
That's right. I don't want anything else. I don't need a particular recovery drink, or I don't even need a meal. I just want some fun and friends and hang out.
I love that so much. That's hilarious. That is great. Okay. So do you have a favorite running item? You will not go running without this item.
Yeah. Okay. That's probably a hard question for me because there's two. Can I have two?
Sure. It's your story. Yes, you can.
And if I go back in my head a little bit of which one, if I had to choose, I don't know that I could. But my watch is definitely one because I love, even if I know the route pretty well, so the distance is in my mind. I like to know my pace. I like to know my heart rate. I like to stay in on those details of what's going on. But my earpods, and I just recently switched to Beats Pro rather than my AirPods. So I don't know why I have to point that out, but I do have those now because I do like to listen to things. I do not want to hear myself breathe. So
That's fair.
or cry.
Or tell the Lord what's going on.
Or I don't even want to hear my unfiltered prayer. The Lord hears it. I don't need to hear it.
That is great. That's good. That's a fair point. Fair point. Okay. Do you have a favorite pair of running shoes?
Oh, Brooks forever. It's more of a brand for me than probably a shoe. I have gone.
Brooks girl.
I am. I've tried other running shoes, and I go back to Brooks every single time. So I'm in the Ghost right now. I think the Ghost has been a pretty good standard, but I have tried some other ones at times, and just can't go wrong. I love Brooks.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. For longer runs, what do you like to fuel with?
Okay, so this is a recent thing and definitely credit to my husband because I never really thought about this type of stuff until probably of late that, I should probably fuel with something. That's just not really what I was thinking. I just go and do it. And maybe that's just age too. As I'm getting older, running it's different. But the G1, it's Bare Nutrition, and it is this combination drink of electrolytes and carbs. And so I just put it in a little shaker and I drink it. And I actually don't drink very much of it because I think I typically run better on an empty stomach or just a lightly filled stomach. But that has really helped me on long runs. I can tell a difference. So I enjoy it.
Nice. Okay. So you mentioned your AirPods or your Beats.
That's right. That's right.
So what is Morgan's playlist like?
Oh, it's so cheesy. I hope people don't stop listening to this. When I confess, it's just your typical Christian or country.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got two playlists on my watch, and there's a worship playlist, which honestly is hard because finding the right worship songs to run to is usually a challenge for me. And then I have my workout country music that I run to. And usually if I run really early in the morning, it's going to be my worship. And it's an evening. Afternoon, it's going to be my country.
Okay. I know that's fair. Mine's a mixture, and I can send you my playlist. I love my playlist.
I need a playlist.
It has got some Rascal Flatts.
Okay.
Got a little bit of Carrie Underwood.
Yep.
But then we got some Skillet.
Yeah.
And we've got, I will also say there's The Greatest Showman on there too.
Oh.
So that's thrown in there.
That might help.
As well. I don't know what it is, but you're just like, okay, I like this.
Yeah.
So we're gonna add it.
Maybe we should, I know, with your podcast, we should get lots of runners to start putting together a playlist.
We could. The ultimate running playlist.
Yes. I will probably not contribute, but I would benefit from it.
That is awesome. That's a great idea. We should do it. Okay. All right. Do you have a cross training activity that you like to do?
Well, yeah. So now I'm pretty committed to this running era
Sure.
now at this
Mhm.
point. And so I started just with maybe 3-4 months ago, started working out with a Thrive personal training.
I love.
Yeah. So Rachel and Tyler, the
Love
trainers
Rachel.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
She's
So
been on the podcast.
has she? Oh, I need to go back and listen to her.
Mhm.
That's been great. So
Mhm.
I have been doing that just 2 days a week,
Mhm.
and then running 3 days a week has been my plan. Though this summer is throwing me for a loop on the
Listen,
runs. It's
hard.
bad.
Yeah.
Bad.
Mhm.
So I'm not really sure how to handle that, but I've loved working out there
Mhm.
and doing some strength training with the goal of being a better runner.
Mhm. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah. Love them. They're great
Yeah.
people. So, what advice would you give to somebody that wants to start running or walking?
Oh goodness. It's funny. The advice I'd give in the first chapter versus the second chapter are probably very different.
Mhm.
I think the first chapter I'd have probably been a little bit more hardcore, just get up and go, just do it. But the second chapter for me, I think I would really encourage you to get a friend
Mhm.
and pace with yourself. Don't force yourself. I think that is something, maybe a lesson I could add in at this point as I'm talking, thinking through. A lesson I was thinking about running down Old Shell Road was seeing other runners run, and some of them just different pace.
Yeah.
Some looked like they were struggling,
Mhm.
others looked like they weren't even sweating.
Mhm.
And I would think to myself, gosh, you don't know where people are in their stories.
Right.
You have
Yeah.
no idea
Mhm.
where they are in their run.
Mhm.
Like they could have just gotten started.
Mhm.
They could be at the very end.
Yeah.
This could be the worst run of their running chapter. I don't
Mhm.
know where they are. Just like in life, we don't know
Mhm.
where people are in their
Mhm.
stories. And so having that mindset, running with somebody just helped me have a companion in
Mhm.
the struggle, that I wasn't alone in whatever it was that was coming up and out.
Yeah. Oh, I love running with my running buddies. And we have a group text going on. Okay, who's doing what this weekend
Yeah.
and what are we doing? And it's just one, you get to catch up with the week.
Yeah.
But then two, you can laugh and it takes your mind off things and you're just with your people.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah. It's, pace.
Pace, your pace.
Your
Yeah.
pace. No
I
one
love
else's.
that. That's
Yours.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When things have gotten tough,
Mhm.
is there been a mantra that you told yourself?
Yes. And I have a laugh because I think about the Finding Nemo, just keep swimming.
Yeah.
Just keep swimming.
Mhm.
That is kind of my mantra.
Sure.
And it came alive in the half marathon, which honestly was less of a spiritual experience and more of a physical one at that point. I was just like, go, Morgan, you got this. But I had these caffeine gummies that I kept in my pocket. And at every third mile, I would pull a half a gummy out and I'd eat it. And I just remember telling myself, you'll get a gummy in one more mile. Keep going half a mile, you're going to get a gummy. It's like dangling candy out from a child. Keep going, you got it.
I was literally thinking about somebody being like in front of you. You want this gummy? Gotta come get it. You gotta come get this gummy.
You're
Like,
so close. You're so close. I would live for my AirPods telling me, like, 3 miles. And I'm like, great gummy.
that is fantastic. Living for the gummy.
Living for the gummy. That was the motto of the half marathon.
That is great.
So just keep going.
Just keep going. You'll get the gummy.
That's right. That's right.
Do you have any running goals for the future?
Yeah. So I think my running goal was the half marathon. And so now I'm in this lull of what to do. And no one runs races in the summer here. They're all in the fall and spring.
You're just trying to survive.
You're just trying to survive. So that's my goal right now is just survive and keep running, even if it's short runs, just get it done. But my husband has thrown out the idea of a marathon. I don't know that I have that desire to do a full, but I definitely have a desire to do another half. And so I think that would be something I want to do. Or even part of the training at Thrive has been with also the goal of doing a high rocks competition together.
Whoa.
So, and there's a lot of people in Mobile that are doing those. And so we've talked about doing one in the fall in Texas. So that is also a goal, I think.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I will tell you that you should go ahead and pencil in Battleship 12K
Okay.
in November. It's fantastic.
I sure will. Yeah, I sure
It's-
will.
Oh,
Yeah. It's a good one. I've heard
It's a
people
good
talk
one.
about it. All right. I know. I need to get a list of all the good runs. Everyone else's favorite runs.
It's by far my favorite. It's up there. Like
Yeah.
it is definitely number
A
one.
good after party.
Great after party.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
and it's a
okay.
point to point.
Uh-huh.
They'll bus you back.
Yeah.
You end at the battleship.
Yeah. Awesome.
It's local, so it's
Yeah.
not like you have to travel too far.
That's right.
And it's so patriotic.
Love it.
It checks all the check boxes.
That's great. Okay.
So,
I'll
there's no mermaids.
Okay.
But
no
we
one
could
on
probably
stilts.
put a fin out there in the water for you if you want it. I got some plans. I got to make some things happen. It's like just popping out
so
for
good.
you.
That's
You know.
Yeah. Okay. Good to
Yeah.
know. I
But
love
those are
that.
some great goals.
Yeah, I know. I'm a little fearful to say that on the air here.
No, go
but
for it. I think you should.
but another half in a high rocks competition,
Mhm.
and I think that'll be good for now.
Yeah. Love that. Okay. Do your girls go run with you guys at all?
Not yet.
Okay.
So my daughter Margaret, she really has some natural running talent that I would like to nurture. So she did a fun run and enjoyed it, but she's leaning more into sports rather than running. So she chose soccer over cross country and things like that.
Sure.
But they do see us run, and my youngest daughter will get out and run stop sign to stop sign
Yeah.
sometimes.
I love that. Hey, I do that too.
Yeah.
Just make it to the side. Like yours is like make it to a gummy. I'm like, just make it
I
to the
know, just make
side.
see that stop sign right there. Keep going.
Make it. Just make it. What has been your favorite lengths to run? Whether with Annie,
Yeah.
a training run, race day, what's your favorite mileage?
Yeah, if I just went out for a run, it would be 6 miles. I think
Okay.
that would be just like a generic
Wow.
get out and go. That's been one of the frustrations of the summer is I'm running probably 3 to 4 miles right now, and that's about as max as I can do with the humidity.
Sure.
It's just too thick. I can't
Yeah.
breathe. But in a regular run, if I were to go out 6 miles,
Okay.
and if I wanted to push myself, it'd be 8 to 10 that I would like to do.
Okay. We got it. All right. When you aren't running, what are you passionate about? What fuels you?
When I'm not running, oh, my family. I love my family. I love my husband. I love my girls. They really do fuel me. And that's definitely been a perspective shift in coming back to the present. And rather, the dream is realizing, gosh, I have these good gifts right here in front of me. And I would just want to be as present as possible with them in whatever season of life we are in together. And so they definitely fuel me. I love what I do for work. I love my clients. I love my practice. And that is also something that fuels just my own health, is that I have the ability to show up for people. So taking care of myself through running helps me to do that.
And what's the name of your practice?
It's pretty generic. Morgan Walker Counseling. I thought way too hard of a clever
I love it.
name.
Yeah.
I was like, how spiritual can I go? How, typical can I go? And then I was like, just going to be me.
Let me ask you this. Do clients get a gummy at the end of the session?
That's a great idea.
Okay,
No.
okay.
That's a great idea. You can do it. No.
Okay, come on, fill it out.
You
Go.
can do it.
Here's the gummy.
That's right. That's right. They probably wouldn't turn it down.
I would turn down a gummy. Not gonna lie. Morgan, do you have any final words of wisdom, my friend?
Oh, goodness. Yes, I do. I would say embrace your weakness, because it's where the greatest lessons in life happen.
Morgan, this has been amazing, my friend. You've had a hard story, but what you've brought is that running, it's a gift, and it really helps us. And as you said, it helps us embrace the weakness. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, Allison, thank you for having me. I love meeting with you and talking with you.
Yeah.
This is great.
Wow. Morgan, again, thank you for sharing your story and for the reminder that life is messy, life is hard, we get scarred, but community gets us through, and faith. Community and faith, and getting to hit the pavement can be so healing in so many ways. And again, the gentle reminder that Morgan gives us that you never know what chapter someone's in. And I just want to thank Morgan so much for sharing her story and her heart. Thank you, my friend. I'm so glad that we got connected and that we got to meet in person and know each other a little bit more. I'm so excited about the future. I can't wait to see you at races, and I can't wait to see where our friendship goes, because it was really incredible. And again, thank you, Annie, for pouring into Morgan, and thank you, Sarah, for getting us connected. Just truly amazing how beautiful this running community is. And fun fact, Morgan and Sarah were not even in the state of Alabama when Run Your Story came up. They actually were in Nashville, Tennessee. So that was really cool that those connections happened in the way that it did. And seeing Run Your Story make the connections that it's made has just been absolutely an honor, and it's incredible. And so I do want to say this, and that is for all of our friends who have gone through infertility or through miscarriage, please know that You are thought about, and you are loved, and you are part of this community, and you are so brave. You guys are fighters. And so thank you for being that. Thank you for being fighters and not ever giving up. Just know that you are loved. And again, thank you, Morgan, for sharing your story. It's absolutely incredible, my friend. And thank you to Gilliard Tech Services for believing in Runner's story, for making the website so incredible the way that it is, and for editing our podcast and our website. Guys, definitely go check him out. He is your go-to for all website questions. He would love to sit down with you and help you dream big. He's a dreamer, and so he loves websites, he loves coding, he loves doing all the things. So reach out to him at gilliardts.com. Again, you can also go to runnerstory.com and find that link as well. As always, Mars Hill, thank you so much for giving us a very safe place to be able to record. Really appreciate that, especially with stories like Morgan's, where it's a little hard and it's not easy to share that, but giving us a safe place to be able to do that, I'm forever grateful to Mars Hill. They believe in the running community, they believe in our stories. And thank you to our Patreon family members. I absolutely love and adore you guys. Thank you for making this possible. We would not be where we are today without you. And so we hope that we make you proud story after story. We hope that you guys are loving this podcast and that you love being part of the Patreon community. Until next time, guys, go run your story, because every story needs to be heard.